19th. I know we're a little short on council members. We got a couple who are going to be either watching live or catching it on the replay, and I'm confident that they'll be interacting with city staff as needed. Planning for running right up about probably 5:45 or hopefully sooner, as we have a 6 o'clock thing in the other room. With that,
sure.
Turn it over. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks. I'm Rebecca Grill, the city manager, here with Julie Kalmus and Denise Edwards to talk about the budget. First of all, I just want to thank them and also all the department heads and staff. We worked really hard to get us to a really good place and spent a lot of time going through detailed lines, asking lots of questions. So there was a lot of work that went into this. So we look forward to talking about it. There are 61 slides, so we only have less than 2 minutes for each slide. We're going to go through some of the general budget information, then each of the departments is going to take a few minutes, 5 or less. Some of them might take a little longer, some will only talk 1 or 2 minutes and go over the highlights of their budget and if there's any question, and then we're gonna try to dig into the capital improvement program too. There is a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night if it's needed. Otherwise, we could also probably have something before the public hearing on November 4th, because that would give us a little more time to dig into things if there's questions. So I'll just dive in unless you have something. Okay. Oh, just this is the mission and vision that helped guide us put together the budget, as well as the different aspects of the strategic plan. So these are the things that we look towards when making decisions about what to put in here. Additionally, we have some budget focus that we looked at, continuing the high quality services. We're currently working on restructuring of the city departments, hoping for more cross-training and alignment of resources. Looking at the creation of a communication and engagement division through reallocation of existing resources, additional investments into technology to help service and streamline processes, and then investments towards increasing net new construction in the long term to build future levy capacity. So those are things that we have also focused on in this 2026 proposed budget. As you know, there's always financial factors that impact the budget. We have the over-reliance on property taxes, municipal services payments, levy limits, expenditure restraint. We have a lot of issues in maintenance on our facilities. We have to do lead pipe replacement, PFAS, water and stormwater projects. Want to retain and recruit high-quality staff. 75% of our budget is salary and benefits, and then we have to be mindful of the taxpayer financial limitations. So we'll dive in a little bit deeper into this, of some of the challenges. Over-reliance on property taxes. The state of Wisconsin relies very heavily on property taxes to fund local government. It's more than 62% of our local government. Schools are also funded that way. Our tax bills are double the national average. We're also 7th among states to be the most reliant on property taxes. So this is a structure that's set up at the state level. So we don't really have the capacity to, or the ability to change that. But just to remind people, that's where we are. Municipal services payment, we talked a lot about that this year. This is kind of a payment in lieu of taxes for state facilities that are in the city for the services, police, fire. Those are the 2 services that we provide. This year they increased the funding for that to 51.8%. We were estimating an increase of $300,000, but at noon today, we got notification that we're getting 1.7 million instead of 1.4. So that's an additional 300,000. We didn't change out any of the other numbers. That's why I wanted to put this in here separately. Really, the increase was not only due to the going from 37% to 51%. It's based on the increased cost for police and fire. So as those go up, we also get more reimbursement for that. So this is a good thing in a way for getting paid back for the increases for the police and fire. So we have the extra 300 or 400,000 or 300,000 that we learned about less than 4 hours ago. Then going into levy limits, you're very familiar with this. We are not allowed to increase our levy more than net new construction, except for the debt levy adjustment that we have all but used up. So the levy limit last year was 47.5. I think there's another screen that talks about what we could go up this year, but the budget the council passed last year was with $47 million levy. This proposed budget maintains that same limit. Here's the screen about the debt adjustment. I don't know if you have any more comments. We talked about this in June, I believe.
Right. So we never want to lose our net new construction. So what would happen is if we keep the levy at the 47 million, you would just decrease your debt adjustment. So that's what I was trying to show on this slide, is that yellow column. Instead of needing a 12.8, almost $12.9 million debt adjustment, we would only need a 12.4 million debt adjustment on the levy limit worksheet this year if we maintain the 47 million tax levy.
And then as a reminder, I already mentioned this, 75% of our general fund budget is personnel. So that for 2026, that's 44 million out of, I think the total general fund is 63 million. Here it is broken up by the different functions. Public safety is the largest, then general government, then public works. A lot of public works is in utilities. That's why it's a smaller slice of the pie here, because this is just related to the general fund. And then these are the different categories, the departments that are in there. So I did list the not general fund departments, but I noted that here too. Any questions so far? So in the 2025 budget, there was a $3.5 million drawn on of the fund balance to lower the amount that was levied. The increase for 2026 for a possible increase for the levy limits is $483,000. That was our net new construction was 1.384. When we started talking about this, the budget this year, we talked about a $6.1 million deficit. That was with no levy increase. So we've worked very hard to bring that down. Some of the mitigations to bring that down, we actually had 0% increase for health and dental, which is pretty impressive compared to the rest of, I think the school district was talking about an increase for that, but yeah, we were able to do it as 0%. So we had estimated $850,000, so that saved us that right off the bat. We did get the additional funding for the municipal services payment. We're also this year doing budget for vacancies, so you always, in larger departments, there's always vacancies, so we've not budgeted for 100% in those departments. We do have contingencies available if there was some miraculous thing that happened that people were, they were fully staffed. We've also had some increased revenue estimates. Then we did bring in the fund balance for special revenue accounts. We did move a lot of those into the general fund, from the special revenue into the general fund. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And then we're looking at a fund balance transfer of 1.1 million, down from the 3.5. But with the additional money we just found out about it, we can probably adjust that a little bit more. So those were the way that we were able to close the gap. Now we're going to dive right into the department information. So as I mentioned, each department is going to come up and talk a little bit. The departments that have divisions, we'll give them a little more than 5 minutes. Okay, John? You can have longer than 5 minutes because you have more divisions. So just starting with the city managers, as I mentioned before, creation of a communication and engagement division. This will involves moving Oshkosh Media into the department. As we do the restructuring, we'll be moving different people from different departments who are involved in those type of activities into this division. We also have some funding for website redesign and rebranding. We had a unclassified account that we've reallocated everything from there in the relative departments. So for the city manager, the pay for performance, you can read the non-inventory supplies and contingency. So that's what accounts for the 1,240% increase. Then we will move on to administrative services, starting with HR and insurance. John?
I don't know why you approved more than 5 minutes off the bat. I would have tried to make it stick to that
I think council knows I like to keep it brief. So, I really don't have too much to talk about in regard to HR and insurance. City Manager Grill already talked about, we were fortunate with our insurance. Our employees have done a great job. The council's support of our clinic has really helped us with our health insurance. And the industry standard is ordinarily about 8%. So to be able to do 0, and we've done 0 quite a few years in the last 10 is something that I think is a credit to the council and to our employees. We're going to be working very hard on some of the reorganization things that City Manager Grill talked about earlier too, and it's going to take quite some time. We've had some initial discussions with department heads, and I know City Manager Grill is going to be speaking in a little more detail to our employee population in November. And but I think council knows that a reorganization of any significance, it just takes quite a bit of time. And we would just ask for your patience with that, because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be in new areas, working with new supervisors and things like that. So we probably won't be at peak efficiency right away. It's going to take a little bit of time. So is there anything, Michelle, that you'd like to add?
Nothing in particular. Obviously, we continue to focus on developing our employees, especially soft skills, and continuing to enhance our processes within HR, and again, support city managers' goals. That's
Any questions I can answer about HR or insurance? Okay.
Happy to see a 0% increase, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was a fantastic job.
Well, good. Thank you. All right. The next area we have is the clerks, and talking about reorganization. The clerk's office is reorganized into administrative services, and I think you all know Cheryl Pianchi. She's been doing a great job filling in as an interim. one of the reasons that in discussions with City Manager Grill that we thought this would be a good idea is, I think you know the clerk's office is very limited with staff. They really only have a couple full-time employees. They have their staff swells when we have elections and we have a lot of poll workers. But if something were to happen where they needed support, you know, we've always pitched in and helped them, and other departments have been very great pitching in and helping, but we thought that, you know, going forward, having additional staff and being in a little bit larger department would provide a little more support for them and stability going forward. So that was part of the, I would say a large part of the discussion that we had in that regard. So this is one of the first parts of the reorganization that has already taken place. I know that also Cheryl has also worked on upgrading our technology, and we've benefited from City Manager Grill having that experience as a clerk when she worked in Milwaukee and also West Allis. So she's been helping take a look at what we have and how we can improve that. And I know that Cheryl and her staff are excited to have those resources going forward. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Cheryl?
I mean, as far as just 2 items to note, one of the things that we did change in the clerk's budget, and we did do Civic Week, but we did remove Evolve, so there really isn't much of a price change with that. And then in our election budget, for temp pay, the increase was approximately $50,000 more, just because we will have 4 elections next year. And then we are doing a Modus software for elections that was about $7,500.
And the council had purchased, or had approved a purchase of a quicker processing for ballot, so in the central count.
Yes.
A lot, I don't forget how many more
I
per minute, it's a lot more.
It's a lot, like hundreds.
Yeah.
I remember inquiring with City Clerk Bartlett on that topic. I think back when we authorized it, I think the question I had was, you know, was one enough? She had alluded to the speed of it, but I think knowing that, as you mentioned, 4 elections coming up, making sure it's right-sized, within our processes.
Correct.
It'll be good to see.
It will be. I'm really anxious to see it in February.
Anything else, Cheryl?
No, that's it.
I guess I would just add too, we've moved forward with the recruitment for the city clerk's position, so that our new clerk is going to be starting November 5th, and Cheryl and I have talked about that. Cheryl knows the person that's going to be coming in. I think she's very excited for that as well. So she's got a lot of experience, and I think she'll bring a lot of ideas to our organization. Okay. If there's no other questions about clerk, then the next area is purchasing and facilities. And I think you know purchasing and facilities. Purchasing is something that all the departments rely on, and we try to be as cost effective as we possibly can. And while still making it convenient, trusting our employees to do the right thing with low dollar items. That's how it's been set up historically. And facilities in this kind of context are some of the staff that work not only with minor construction, but also doing cleaning, doing grounds work. We're fortunate that we have a lot of great people that are very dedicated and work all over the city. A few years back, we consolidated a lot of the facility-related staff that were embedded in different parts of the organization, in parts of different departments. And actually, since we're going through initial dialogue about the reorg, we've referenced that process with some of the other departments. And I think John did a great job, as well as Michelle, trying to make that as comfortable for the other departments when those staff people came together. And talking to those employees, so they felt comfortable doing that. So when we talk to other departments about the future reorg that City Manager Grill has referenced, we use that example as to how we would have dialogue with employees and try to make them feel comfortable when some of these changes are going to take place. And I think it's a little less scary for some of those folks because they've endured that previous project and it went very well. So, John, do you want to add anything about purchasing of facilities?
I think you added the big project we're going to be working on is merging the library facilities responsibilities into facilities maintenance. So that is reflected in our budget. You see some increases there. That's something Daryl and his team wanted to work on. So it's a big part of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, I'm glad John reminded me about that. When we did the consolidation with all the other departments in the past, library was not part of that, but that's something that Daryl Bichette, felt very strongly about and had discussions with us and City Manager Grill, so that's something we're going to fold that department in as well. Any questions? All right, the next area in administrative services budgetarily is information technology. Thanks, John. I think you know Tony Newman, he's our IT manager. So there's all kinds of different things always going on in IT. And I think there's been a variety of discussions with City Manager Grill. City Manager Grill, I would say, is a little more tech savvy than the average city manager, city administrator. So that's very exciting for us and also for the folks that work in IT. And so we've talked about, first of all, I think I should just back up a little bit. One of the things that she wanted us to take a look at originally was all of our software. We took a look at all our software. We took a look at what it does. We took a look at what it costs. We took a look at when it was implemented, and have there been products that have been initiated, developed since we contracted for some of those services, just to try to take a look at it and make sure that we are doing what we think is going to be best for the organization. So I thought that was pretty exciting. I think Tony was pretty excited about that. Talked a little bit about hardware, but primarily software. And in conjunction with some of the reorg ideas that we've been working on, I think City Manager Grill has made it clear that if we can work smarter, if we can use technology, that's something that is, going to be better for staff. It's going to be better for our community. They can access information a lot quicker. And as I said, all those sorts of projects are very exciting for our information technology staff. And I'll let Tony expand on some of the details regarding some of the specific software and also a little more about how the staff feel about all this.
Obviously with change, staff get nervous at first. Once you actually explain the change, the reasons for the change, the efficiencies gained, and City Manager Grill's vision for the future and how the changes will increase efficiency, increase collaboration, improve communication with the citizens. It's all a step in the right direction. It's going to put a lot of work on IT and other departments to implement all these systems, because a lot of evaluation has to be done before you implement, and there'll be a lot of work on the front end, but it'll be well worth it on the long end. It's going to take some time, but we will get there, and I really appreciate the fact that City Manager Grill embraces technology, and will definitely see us into the future.
I do like paper too.
I don't think that's accurate. So, I mean, more specifically, we're going to be moving to an outward-facing customer service platform called OpenGov that we've been working on. I think that's going to really be something that I think is going to provide just kind of a one stop, shop kind of face to the community that I think is going to be something that is going to be uniformly used across all departments. I think that's something that's going to be a huge improvement, and provide, again, kind of a speaking with one voice kind of theme that I think you're going to see not only with our technology but also throughout the organization. We're also going to evolve to a different platform for our operating system, so that's something that's very exciting. It's going to take a little bit of time. I know Tony's working on that to get that in place, and also some refreshes with our web technology and our web pages. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, Tony.
No, office productivity, like I said, moving to that common, consistent platform for all citizen engagement is going to be important. Look and feel will be the same no matter what department, division you're trying to work with. And then one of the things that our GIS division is working on is actually a GIS hub to better engage our citizens with some of the GIS capabilities that are public facing. So that'll be coming out in fiscal year 26 also.
Any budget changes in terms of how many of the fishing simulation tests that you're going to send us that I need to more or less?
I will neither confirm nor deny those quantities.
Well, we appreciate staff and also council's tolerance of that. IT people have to have fun at work too, so it's something that's very much appreciated.
Try to call it fun.
All right, if there aren't any more questions about IT, I think that's all we really have for right now. We can talk more about facilities when we get to that. Is that how you want to do it?
In the capital part?
In the capital
Yeah,
part?
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for me? All right, I'll be here for a little while. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll try to be briefer than John. So city attorney is pretty much status quo. We did have two kind of significant changes in our budget. One, we brought an unclassified account that had previously just been unclassified into our budget. There were also two smaller accounts. We eliminated those smaller unclassified accounts. And then we, to get on board with the technology thing, we actually are implementing a file management software system. You guys approved a budget adjustment for it a little earlier this summer, and we're in implementation right now. So that's a $5,700 change in our budget. Julie took a little change here and there on a couple other little accounts, but that's pretty much the city attorney's office. So if there are any questions, otherwise I will cede to the next person.
I think one of the other things is the municipal code software. Cheryl mentioned it before, the Civic Link. We're transitioning to a new software solution that is a lot easier to search in and keep track of
Which is
the
much
changes.
appreciated.
I'm paying attention.
We need an on-deck circle.
Yeah, right. Seems stretching.
Okay, I don't know if I can be as brief as Lynn, but I will definitely try. Okay, council notes for CD's budget, just as a quick refresher. So we have 4 divisions that are within our department. We have assessors, we have inspections, planning, and economic development. We are seeing some changes in a few of them. We have planning is currently going to work on a zoning code rewrite tentatively for 2026. So we have some contractual services increases built into the budget to be able to take that. Assessors, we had an increase within their softwares because, as Tony mentioned, it's shifting out of IT and into the assessors where Arguably, it should be, since it's mainly an assessing software. The bid is changing a little bit as well, because community development doesn't just encompass those divisions. We handle a lot of RDA properties, CDBG, HUD grant, the RLFs that are associated with that, plus our Healthy Neighborhoods Initiatives programs, Go EDC's RLF, all of that's encompassed in ours, as well as our multiple TIDs that we just love here. So we are going to see potentially some changes for TIDs moving forward in years to come, but not so much in 2026. We're looking at closing a couple, but we're just going to play with that for now. And then in our bid, the bid is transitioning to more of a nonprofit contracted services budget on the city side, and they're going to expand their budget with their operational plan more with their nonprofit. And then finally, in the CIP for community development, you're going to see we used to have many more projects. That's all kind of been simplified now into 2 specific development-related CIP projects. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for community development? Anything you guys can think of that I forgot? Pretty straightforward. Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
You made it sound so simple what you're doing, but yeah.
Finance is pretty status quo. Again, we've been trying to strategically move from, we had that unclassified division, but we also had certain employees that were in internal service funds and different things like that. So one of the employees that was in the employee benefits fund got partially moved to finance and HR. So that was the main increase for finance.
Brought back up with me. So for fire, status quo on a lot of the things that we're currently doing. A few things that we're looking for in 2026 is to expand the cadet program. I think most of you have been familiar with the hiring and issues that have been present. So we started a cadet program. We currently have offered 4 cadets, and we have more interviews coming up this week. So we're hoping to go into the new year with all of our vacancies accounted for with people who are currently in paramedic programs. So that's been a very good program for us, and we're very hopeful in the future that that's going to provide relief in that area. Also, we already kind of have our restructuring has been completed, so we were able to add some administrative personnel in a cost-neutral way by reorganizing some of our staff people. So that's been a very good for us. Both of the people that we've have been very quick learners and really have helped us be much more efficient. Some of the other things is, again, we've talked about technology. Nearest is a platform that's coming for our fire reporting, and we also are going to be using Continuum for EMS reporting. Both of these programs will put all of our data kind of in forward-facing, easy-to-read, interactive platforms. So graphs, things like that for looking at KPIs, looking at CQI, accessible by the public. So really gives the public a much better idea of how the fire department is doing and our performance levels. And also looking at a dashboard type fleet management software. So Greg works extensively with City Garage. So making that partnership better where we can have better feedback between City Garage and the end user to hopefully make that process much more efficient as we go forward, because fleet is one of our larger costs, so the more efficient we can make that in the repair process. And then just continuing to follow a lot of the study recommendations. So we've had a facility study, so we're trying to implement a lot of the budget recommendations that were given in that as well.
Do I remember correctly that we were potentially looking at quite a few retirements this next coming up year?
Yes, we originally had a few have indicated now that they're going to be staying a little longer. Okay. So still potential for quite a few, but hopefully we are expanding the time frame of that so we're not hit so hard kind of in one chunk. But we're really hoping this cadet program is going to be a pathway for us forward to get people on board much earlier and be able to kind of forecast those a lot better.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Welcome to that seat.
Yeah, good afternoon. I think that the only things that I would want to point out in this venue about the library has been, as was discussed by Mr. Urban and mentioned by Fitz, that one of the things we're looking at doing is integrating the library's facility operations with those of the city. It's historically been something of a silo in terms of facilities management, and when I came aboard, I looked at a lot of the expenses that were involved in that, and it was something of a measure of faith that I thought that if there was some way to combine these efforts, that there would have to be some efficiencies involved in that. I think Mr. Urban gives me too much credit saying that it was just my feeling, but I think that when I discussed it with the board, they hired me with the idea of improving the relationship between the library and the city, strengthening and making that a closer relationship, and I think that was just one of the things that we hit upon as something that we could do. In that same vein, I mean, it's not mentioned here, the library has just gone through a salary study. In the offshoot of that will be that the library's salary plan will be aligned with that of the city, administered more easily by that of the city, another gained efficiency. And also at the same time, we're working on a strategic plan. I got a draft of it just this morning, and there is lengthy memos to the board about strengthening the relationship between the city and the library in ways that efficiencies should be sought. So I take it as a measure of strategic planning for the future, that this is something that we want to continue, as well as the library's general improvement track that we're trying to keep it on. And working with HR, working with the city manager's office, working with facilities and purchasing even, I think that continuing to make the library into an actual, I say that a little bit facetiously, a department of the city that works the way the rest of the city, I think our goal has been to make it a more efficient department with more predictable outcomes.
I can only speak for myself, but I'd say in my first 3 years here, that's been one of the things I've been most happy about is I know how much time you and Director Colmus have spent going through different things and getting more aligned, but the library and city cooperation and cohesion has been absolutely fantastic in the last couple of years. So thank you for working towards that.
Yes, sir. Y'all need anything else? All right, thank you.
I feel the pressure now, by the way, to be brief. I'm actually going to touch on 3 of our funds. Up on the screen really pertains to our operating budget, which is being moved to the general fund this upcoming year. So to touch on some highlights for 2025 and going into 2026, we were awarded with a second Wisconsin Arts Board Creative Communities grant for the program series Bridging Past and Present that highlights Native American history. That will take place in 2026, and we plan on continuing to collaborate with our fellow city departments on these types of mission-related programs and activities. We received a joint effort marketing grant from the state for our Tiffany's Gardens and Glass exhibition. We're currently planning on applying for another in 2026 for Chicago Collects Jewelry and Perspective exhibition. In 2025, we continued our efforts for increasing accessibility to resources at OPM and through library passes. So currently we have library experience passes at the Oshkosh Public Library, Omro Public Library, Fond du Lac Public Library, and Ripon Public Library. So that is a way that we can increase accessibility to the public. We have had a great year with attendance, and our revenue goals have been wonderful. We expect to exceed our revenue goals. I feel like every week it just kind of keeps going up, which is really wonderful. So I just wanted to give an example for Q3 for our attendance. We had over 4,000 visitors, which is more than our first 2 quarters combined. This translated to over $20,000 in admission receipts. and is more than all of the admission in 2024. But the real surprise is our store is doing amazing. Our target sales for this past quarter 3, was $3,000, and we earned $18,000. So it's been really wonderful. And so for context, Q1 and Q2 was about $3,500 each. We are being conservative for our estimates, our revenue goals and estimates in 2026, because we do have 2 big construction projects on the horizon that will likely impact visitation. Our elevator will be upgraded and modernized, as well as our main parking lot will be completely reconstructed. So we still wanted to keep our conservative estimates, but I'm hoping to continue to manifest amazing results. So those are just a few things for our operating budget, as well as the big changes moving to the general fund. If there are no questions on that, I wanted to touch on our membership fund and our collections fund, which are both board governed funds. Our membership fund significantly augments our activities and personnel costs. So a strong membership, if our membership fund is strong, that enhances our ability to not ask for more money from the taxpayers. So we are looking to continue to strengthen our efforts within that fund. In 2025, it supported 6 exhibitions, which is an extremely ambitious exhibition schedule, including a couple of visiting exhibitions. In 2026, we will continue to have another round of about 6 exhibitions, including celebrations of the nation's 250th, Lewis Hine, as well as a new collaboration with UWO on quinceanera customs in the Hispanic community. So we're really excited about that, as well as we will be utilizing funds from the KITS Directors Trust to work with a consultant in 2026 to create and launch a redesigned membership program. Our goal would be to launch it before Chicago collects. And again, we want to strengthen our ability to enhance membership, because this fund is used for so many activities, including helping with personnel costs. We will continue to, speaking of personnel costs, we will continue to fund a 3rd visitor services person. That has really helped this year with having full-time staff be free to really focus on their job duties instead of front of house operations. So it's created a big efficiency. It's also enhanced visitor experience, engagement. Its store sales are up. So I think that that additional person that's really dedicated to that front of house operations is really, we've seen some major successes with that. Any questions on the membership fund? Okay. Collections fund, this is one of our more restricted funds. It's really for the care, maintenance, acquisition for the museum's collection. We increased funding in this fund this year for outside expert assessments. We anticipate having more tribal consultations as part of our NAGPRA project, which we will be continuing to fund a NAGPRA collections assistant through 2029, when the federal deadlines for that law occur. So that'll be an ongoing process. We're never really done with NAGPRA, but this particular project, so we meet the federal deadlines, will be continuing. We also requested an increase to that fund for 2026 to accommodate paid collections assistant internships. These internships will focus on collections care and management projects and provide meaningful opportunities to students interested in the field. So there's a new program at UWO, a new certificate program in museum studies, so we expect a lot of interest for collections interns. And then 2025, we made significant progress in rationalizing the collection and removing collections that no longer advance the museum's mission. This year we removed outdated publications from our research library, including so many National Geographics. For some reason we had a ton of them. We also deaccessioned almost 100 really large items, including pianos, trunks, spinning wheels, my favorite, sewing tables, which I've talked about frequently, and several large fire vehicles and apparatuses from the collection. And we'll be continuing these efforts into 2026 to alleviate some of our space constraints. Okay. Thank you.
You didn't say baby strollers.
That 2026 baby strollers. I will report on that at the next one. It's on my list.
More or less?
Less. It's a target.
As we've alluded to a couple times as Park Director Camp comes up, but last year we spent a lot of time talking about a lot of the special revenue funds that are tax levy supported. So one of the ideas that we had this year was get them back into the general fund. I think the main reason they were not in the general fund was for previous year expenditure restraint purposes. Some of these funds were 50 to 100% fully funded by tax levy. So there wasn't a good purpose to have them as a special revenue fund, and in accounting terms, they weren't special revenue funds. So we moved them back as departments within the general fund, which is what we alluded to when we transferred that fund balance to the general fund then as well. So museum was one of them, parks has a few of them, street lighting was another one. So that's, I just wanted to give a little bit of that background.
So on that topic, before we go to parks, at some point we moved them out of the general fund and into a special revenue fund for a reason, variety of reasons over many, many years. And most of the time it was advantageous financially for us to do that, right? There was some sort of state restraint that we were under, and that facilitated or necessitated us moving them out and into their own fund. Moving them back has to have some sort of impact. So what's the negative impact of us moving these things back? There has to be something.
Last year when we moved ambulance out of the general fund, we created a huge gap in the general fund with expenditure restraint. Last year we had conversations how we artificially inflated the contingency and the drawdown from fund balance. So like if you look in the documents, it was actually more than that 3.5 because we artificially inflated it because we didn't want to lose that room or that space in expenditure restraint.
So this is backfilling?
So now because we have this gap in expenditure restraint, we have the capacity to bring some of them back into the general fund.
Okay.
We're not taking up all of that capacity. We still have this room, but it's a first step.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, since the levy limits are very restrictive, you're really not, unless we have a huge amount of TIDS closing or things like that, we're not going to hit expenditure restraint.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Parks Department, we do oversee a number of divisions, and so obviously we have the parks, landscape operations, which is our forestry and cemeteries, revenue facilities, which is our zoo, boat launches, amusement rides, Miller's Bay, the Reed's concessions, our internal special events, and the Lakefly Cafe, Senior Center, Leach Amphitheater, and Pollock Community Water Park. Kathy Snell, the special events manager, is part of our department. As you know, she's the main contact for all events that require city approval. And then we have a marketing and fund development position that is jointly funded between Parks, Senior Center, and Planning. And that has really been a good cooperation that I think has worked well for all of us. Members of our management team are here if there's any questions that you may have for them directly. I'm going to jump into some of the each of those areas and give you just a quick summary of what we did in 25 and what we're looking at for 26. In the Parks Division, you'll see our park facility, the rental revenue has tripled since about 2023 when we were just a little over 30,000. This year we're expecting to be at 90,000, and in our budget we've included an increase of $50 across the board for the Lakeshore Four Seasons building. We continue to hear from people that it is relatively inexpensive, and part of our goal with that facility, if you recall, was to make sure that everybody within the community could utilize it. But I still think another $50 increase isn't going to discourage that based on other comparables. So again, we're looking to bring in over $100,000 with the facility rentals in 26. A couple projects from 25 we wanted to make you aware of. The 44th parallel tennis courts. That project is finishing up. We reduced it from 2 tennis courts down to 1, but added 2 pickleball courts. I know Carl's probably happy about that. We replaced play equipment at Rainbow Memorial Park and Stevens Park. We resurfaced the tennis and basketball courts at Stevens Park. And currently, play equipment is being installed in Pickard Park as the first phase of that development begins. That installation should be completed within the next couple of weeks. We're currently finalizing the Quarry Park Master Plan. That goes to the Plan Commission this month, and I expect that to come to Common Council next month. Seaward Trail Road in Menominee Park, reconstruction is finishing up. Most of it should be completed this week, including restoration in time for our Zuluim Boo. They may have some work to do finishing that off next week, but that was a major project. Thanks to engineering staff for helping on that as well. In 2026, we're planning for some of the development to begin out at Quarry Park. We're hoping to replace the ball field lights at Reed's North Diamond and some continued improvements at the zoo, including improving the fencing and some of the small animal exhibits that we need to get designed and constructed. Any questions on parks? Otherwise, I'm going to just keep rolling. Landscape operations. This division is responsible for management of the trees in public spaces, including terrace trees. We also oversee the roundabouts or maintain the roundabouts and the 2 cemeteries, Riverside and Boyd cemeteries. And then we have downtown business improvement district where we do a lot of the flower pots and assist with other maintenance areas. Annually, the division removes roughly 150 to 300 trees as of late, and our goal is to replace as many. The division has a goal of trimming 1/5 of the city trees each winter, which is approximately 2,000 trees per winter. In 2025, we installed the 5th and final Welcome to Oshkosh sign at Jackson Street in Murdoch. That sign has sat in storage since the initial installation because there were some concerns and issues with trying to locate that sign. We finally did work with some of our community partners and got that installed in that area along with some landscaping. And we're currently working with a consultant on an urban forestry strategic plan and urban forestry management plan. That process continues. That also includes reviewing all tree-related sections of the municipal code. I would expect in the next couple of months that will be going to the Sustainability Advisory Board, Advisory Parks Board, and other boards and committees to get some input on that. So Travis continues to work on that with our consultant. Next division, senior services. The center provides programs and events for individuals 50 and older. I'm happy to say that we are back to and surpassing the pre-COVID attendance. Majority of our visitors coming for fitness programs or the Fox Fitness Center. For the senior center, there's 2 budgets really, what we call the 201 fund, which is essentially a program fund where program operations account for, so there's no tax levy support in that one. The 231 fund was previously a special revenue fund. That's one of those that Julie talked about that we moved into the general fund. That's the one that includes our staffing costs and a lot of the overhead for the center and the operations. In 2025, the senior center significantly increased the amount of personal training sessions offered. Through program refinement expansion, the number of sessions through June of this year has already exceeded the 2024 number. It's become a very popular request of our senior center staff, and we had some waiting lists earlier this year that I think we've been able to hire some part-time staff to make sure that we are accommodating those waiting lists. We continue to expand on those programs going into 2026. Leach Amphitheater, in 2025, we completed a number of maintenance projects, including painting, replacement of coolers and grills in some of the concession areas. In 2026, we plan to work on increasing some partnerships to expand programs and events at the facility. Jumping to Pollock Community Water Park. This year we had approximately 35,000 visitors at the pool. We replaced the PA and sound system, which was original to the pool back in 2006, I believe. So we got 20 years roughly out of that. In 2026, we begin phasing in replacement of some of the pool heaters. I believe in the capital program for the next 3 years, we put in requests to replace one of those each year.
Is that gonna be terribly less efficient than like trying to do them all in one swoop? Or are we gonna have to close down the pool to change it?
Our hope is that because we're not doing all three at once, that it will be less interruption. We're going to plan to do that prior to opening.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is prevent a heater going out and having half the pool shut down for middle of summer or whatever.
Awesome.
And we've talked with, and Chad has met with our vendors for our pools, and they said this is about the time you're going to start to see them fail, so they suggested we start taking a look at getting those updated.
Awesome.
So. And then Parks Revenue Facilities, this is still a special revenue fund. This includes the zoo, boat launches, amusement rides, Miller's Bay mooring program, REITs concessions, park special events, and the Lake Fly Cafe. On the screen, you can see really a summary of each of those project areas with revenue and expenditure, so that's a good snapshot for you. And then in your budget document, you've got a combined version with all of these numbers combined into that version. The budget does reflect a discontinuation of the train on tracks at Menominee Park and replacing it with an on-land train on wheels. As you recall, last year, that became something of an issue that we had to come back to council after some public feedback and get some funding. This year, the train was actually to stay operating very well. But we did not, we had requested the funding to reconstruct the shelter, or the tunnel we call it, for storage. We held off on doing that because a number of our community partners that we've been working on to go with an on-land train were part of some of that group that really wanted to see the on-track train stay this year. So they are understanding that if we went with an on-land train, our goal is that would become a 7-day operation where we could take the train, essentially go from the Menominee Park Beach, eventually up to Ames Point and make it a longer tour. Our hope is to get some individuals, some staff, maybe some retired individuals, that they can, during the ride, talk about the history of the park, talk about different projects in the park that we're doing. So that's what we're planning for. We do have, our partners have already been doing some fundraising to raise the funds to purchase the train. The train itself that we were looking at is about $100,000. They have almost reached that goal. And then in the operating budget, we are looking at revenues that would exceed and offset the expenses to operate the train. We did take this to the Advisory Parks Board in August, and they supported it unanimously. So that is the big change again for this budget. And that is it for the various divisions.
I don't want this to turn into the train meeting, so I think I'm going to hold off on my train comments for right now.
We are ready.
Thank you. This little teaser from the mayor.
Good afternoon. So to get started, to begin with, when we started to evaluate the police operating budget, we actually started with what can we do to find efficiencies. What areas can we say, okay, this is old, or we no longer do this, how can we be different? So we identified some efficiencies. We had a couple positions that we were doing that just weren't working for us at this time, or we had already brought technology in that could help us be better at what we do by using technology rather than using people. And then we continued that theme, and this happened to be in 2026, the year that we have to renegotiate our body camera contract, as that was expiring. And in working with our vendor Access, they are the leaders in technology and law enforcement as it relates to public integration. Each of you know our body camera program is an incredible success. We find that we solve a lot of things that come before us because we can see what happened out in the field as it happens, rather than just, somebody said this, somebody said that, and we can solve a lot of crimes by using our body cameras. In addition, our taser technology has been a lifesaver. Literally,
as a part of our use of force continuum by involving tasers, which we have done for many, many years, over 2 decades of using taser. The technology grows, it changes, and taser has now developed another platform that is superior to what we currently have, where the officer has better control of our tasers, our probes as they deploy them. There's also better control of the device itself. That actually, the officer has the opportunity to fire multiple probes if they miss, rather than having to stop and reload. Farther distances, so as somebody fleeing gets away, we're able to actually use the taser to take them into custody and keep others from being harmed if possible. But saying all that, we also, in speaking with Axon, again, as I mentioned, they're the leader in public safety software across the country, across the world. They have an opportunity for us, and we're taking advantage of it to really create efficiency as it relates. First piece I'll talk about as it relates to report writing, which is the biggest time eater for police officers. The interaction between a citizen member and a police officer can last 15 minutes, but that can turn into an hour and 15 as the officer has to complete a report and everything that he does along the way to document his activities that he went through with his reports. Axon has developed an application through their body cameras called Draft One, and Draft One has significantly, we tested Draft One for a quarter this year, and it significantly reduced the time that it took for our officers to write reports, what I believe is this will help us prolong having to add more police officers. As you know, one police officer is well over $100,000 with salary and benefits, but that's just for one. By adding this feature with Draft One, we're saving double digits of time of a police officer, and which will allow them to get back on the street much quicker, rather than sitting there waiting that extra hour to type that 15-minute report. Draft One uses the body camera, and it helps the officer populate the report based upon the information that the technology that pulls off of the body camera itself, and the officer can type in and fill in along the way with this report, and it populates his report for him. It just creates so much efficiency. As a matter of fact, when we told our officers that Draft One test was over, I had a lot of sighs of, oh no, that means I have to actually do all this stuff again, and it really slowed us down on what we were doing. So that's one piece of this. Axon has embraced AI moving forward, and through our programming that we're working with right now, we will be a part of their AI universe through our negotiated contract that we're hoping to initiate. We will be the receivers of everything that Axon does that's AI driven for the next 10 years. So we have certain suites that they're bringing in now. I think there's about 9 over the next 2 years that they're bringing in that they know of. For the following 8 years, if they develop another AI software, we will already be in the game for it. We won't have to go say, hey, I need more money because I need to do this. We will have that afforded to us at no additional charge based upon our contracts that we have, which I think is a game changer for us in law enforcement, as we know that technology changes all the time. When we budget for technology now, we're budgeting for now's technology. Next year when we go to buy it, there's probably something that's even better. We're actually planning forward for 10 years as it relates to artificial intelligence technology in law enforcement. So with our new TASER contract, or new Axon contract, we'll actually be moving from trying to assign a TASER to every officer as they come in. So we hot swap tasers, so they break, and we have a lot of usage of those. Every officer will have a taser assigned to them, so that they don't have to wait for somebody to come in off the street. And when we don't have an officer with a taser, that takes one tool away from them that they can use to mitigate a difficult situation. We have special events that are occurring. We have lots of police officers working. Sometimes we don't have enough tasers to go around. So this will allow us to have a taser for every officer. With that, we also,
several years back, we had virtual reality technology that was provided to the police department through some donations. And with Axon, we will now use the latest and greatest virtual reality for our officers for training. They will be providing all the hardware, all the software, all the training, as well as a virtual reality academy. Unlimited evidence storage, so we're not paying by the terabyte for our body camera video. It's unlimited. We also are not paying by the terabyte for all of our digital evidence. Our digital evidence isn't just body camera any longer. We do a lot of phone investigations. We do a lot of computer investigations. And if you look at your computers that you have in front of you, and you think, well, I've got gigabytes of storage space. Well, when we do an investigation, it involves a cell phone, it involves a computer. We have to download all that data. And once we download all that data, we have to keep it. Well, we have unlimited storage now with evidence.com through Axon, so I don't have to worry about, oh wow, we have to budget for more data storage. We also are bringing in Axon standards, which is their IA reporting. So we'll be moving away from our current product that we have for internal affairs investigations. We'll be using the Axon product for that. We also will have GPS live streaming, and that's an incredibly important tool. And explain that to you as a police officer working with somebody on the street, and things start to get critical for them. They're going to be able to hit their body camera, and by striking their body camera, they'll send out a response, and we'll be able to live stream what's going on at that moment. And this is an incredible officer safety tool where we can tell what's going on. Officers, supervisors who have monitors in front of them, dispatch will be able to see what's going on, be able to see and report out, this officer has this going on. It's the first time we'll actually have real live video of what's going on the street when an officer has a critical situation occurring. We'll also have a community request where community members can share video back to us if they so choose. We'll be able to populate that into our evidence.com storage. Auto tagging, a redaction assistant, so it helps us with redactions required for video. And within the AI plan, we'll have auto transcribe, as I mentioned before, draft 1, policy chat, where we have over 400 different policies for our accreditation. Well, this will actually take our policies and it gives a summarize to the officer so he knows what he should and shouldn't be doing. And this is a really big piece for us as well, translation. It'll also do live translation for us. We know that we struggle with many languages within our community. We're able to use our body cameras now to help us translate. If we run into somebody, I don't speak Spanish, but if I'm wearing a body camera and somebody has one language and it's Spanish, I won't have to try to figure it out. Our body cams will translate it for us. I actually worked with the CEO. I was able to work with the CEO of Axon, Rick Smith, and he demonstrated. He had a gentleman come up and start speaking Hebrew. And then I challenged him. I said, well, can you do Swahili? He said, we're working on that. He couldn't beat Swahili, but they're working on it because we made that request. And that's actually a language that we know we have here in our community. So there's a lot of advances that are occurring through Axon. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to offer this for our officers moving forward, to allow us to be the best equipped officers and efficient in what we do on a day-in and day basis. We're always looking at our activities, our technology. How can we be better at what we do, but also be efficient at what we do? And this is truly going to be a game changer for us moving on. So moving away from Axon, you'll notice that we have really very little other changes within our budgets, other than you'll see that some technology has been moved from IT into the police department budget. Our passport software system has been moved over for parking enforcement. That's now housed within the police department. And I think that's going to be the extent of it. That's the police operating budget. We also have the animal shelter budget for Humane Society. I'm in negotiations right now. That contract actually comes due this year as well. I'm in negotiations with the Humane Society on that contract. We will be looking at a savings in our contract from there. We're taking our actual costs rather than a belief cost. We don't want to overspend our resources as it relates to the Humane Society. We want to be fair to our taxpayers. We also want to be able to charge per animal of what we're doing. Right in the past, we've simply said, we're going to give you X amount of dollars. Now we're going to a model where we're going to give you X amount of dollars for X amount of animals that you care for. And then we're going to pay you an additional $100 for every animal over that limit. Trying to be efficient in what we do and have a measured way of saying, yes, in the city of Oshkosh, we service 600 animals. So we know what's going on here within the community. The Humane Society has assured me that they have a way of tracking whether or not it's an Oshkosh stray that has been brought to their shelter, or it's a Omro stray that's been brought to their shelter. So we'll be working with them to track all those. So we're trying to, again, find some efficiencies in that area. We have the school crossing guard budget, which is unchanged at this time, and also our auxiliary budget, which is unchanged at this time. And that's all I have.
Well, Chief Smith, I'm sure you knew that as soon as you said data, I'd be looking at Axon's security rating, because any data server is only as good as they are secure, and they get great ratings at least. And it looks as if they've never had a data breach, so that's what I like to see.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'll be a lot shorter than that, I believe. Not a whole lot too exciting. You know, I think overall as a department, we've embraced technology for quite some time. Working with the garage, they're working on implementing some technology to help all of the departments be able to better keep tabs on where equipment is at. Engineering has used technology for several years out in the field for construction. We'll continue to keep pushing that with our staff as we move forward and keep integrating with the rest of our groups to be more efficient in how we use that. We are certainly looking forward to some of the changes from a technology standpoint that are coming to help our residents be able to better get information and better communicate with us. I think some of the systems that we use were good at the time, but they need to be better now. Looking at what we have, I think one of the big things to keep in mind from an engineering standpoint, you know, the biannual update to the street pacer rating conditions, you know, it's an every other year thing. It's taking place in 2025. It's an odd year thing. So, you know, you're going to continue to see those swings back and forth every year of it's in the odd years, it's not in the even years. So there will always be those kinds of swings back and forth with that. Other than that, the group is pretty stable. You know, there's not a lot of changes going on. Certainly some of the highlights here are calling out some of the construction projects. I think we've got some CIP discussions coming up, so I'm not going to hit on those now because we'll talk about those more later. Unless you have any questions for me, I think the bigger thing for me is going to be when we get to CIP.
Just in terms of communication, I love that we have the CIP dashboard, and it looks like it was designed by an engineer. So it's you know, it's a good tool to be there, but
I'll defer to Tony. That was his team that helped us design that. But
sure.
Certainly a lot of things that Esri I think develops will have kind of that look to it. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. I'll also be pretty brief here. I'll just kind of tick off a couple different things. I'll start with the street lighting. As most of you are aware, we've decided to install leased WPS-owned street lights on the reconstructed roads other than the main corridors, where we'll look at the decorative city-owned street lights, where we'll prioritize there where the budgets allow. But that'll save us, the payback on putting the city-owned streetlights on the residential streets was pretty considerable. We're looking at about 50 years or more. So we're going to go forward with that policy and save the city some money. Also, you know, there's some things that we noticed in our utility street lighting bill that we're gonna audit and correct some of those issues that we've noticed. Nothing real major, but a couple minor things. Continue to upgrade our intersections with video detection equipment, so hopefully we can get more signals out of flash. And then there are some school district projects which you're aware of, and usually we have a traffic impact analysis and some things related to traffic that are needed to be done, and signage and ordinances that go along with those as well. So that's kind of talking a little bit about street lighting. Electric, as you know, we take care of the that division, mostly traffic as well as city buildings. I'm going to mix in a little bit of CIP, so I don't think I'll have to come back later to speak on those unless there's questions. But the parking CIP this year is going to fund the grand project and some of the parking lot associated with that. So that's where that money will be spent. Chief Smith had alluded to the passport parking. So as far as parking management, we implemented that this year. It's been going really well. We're actually going to expand the use of the app a little bit on High Avenue. That's going to be coming on a future agenda. The current projects we have going on for transit, the phase 2 of the downtown transit centers, as you'll notice, the 222 grand where the grand office is, I think it's almost, they did a pretty good job on it today. It's just about gone. So anyway, we'll be pouring the footings and hopefully getting that building started here shortly, and it'll finish up next year, which will add another platform as well as a public facility, climate controlled waiting area and restrooms. That project is approximately 85% federally funded, and then we also have a couple clean diesel buses that we'll be procuring here in the coming months. As far as the transit operating budget, as we've done for the last few years, we've been holding the city tax levy down by using a little bit of fund balance. But as some of you will recall, some of you are newer, but transit is 56%. It goes up and down every year, but somewhere between 50 and 60% funded by federal and state grants. It's currently at about 56%. And then it's 20% funded by fares, which again, that goes up and down a little bit. 10% by the county, and most recently was about 14% city tax levy. So with that being said, the state tries to fund all systems equally with that percentage, which I mentioned is currently 56%. So good news, bad news, you spend more, you get a little bit more, you spend less, you get less. So there's, once they establish that budget, it's just how they divide that pie. So that's just how the system currently works. Going forward, some things that we're looking at is upgrading our technology, which is the last bullet point up there. We're looking at some ways to enhance our rider comfort and convenience and maintain the system reliability and safety. By doing that, we're looking at maybe updating our CAD AVLs, so our vehicle location, as well as automating stop announcements. We're required to announce major intersections and stops as we pass them, which currently the driver has to do through the microphone manually. So this would allow that to be done automatically, as well as giving us some better data than what we currently have. So we're working on that. It seems like at least a dozen vendors that can do that, so we're sorting through all that. And we have a grant that'll help pay for the majority of that. Going this coming year, a couple things I just want to make you aware of is the agreement with the Oshkosh School District for fare-free busing. That will be at the end of its life next year, so I'm assuming you'll want us to work on renewing that. So that's something that the school district and the city will have to work together on. Our paratransit contract will also be at the end of its term next year, so we'll be putting out an RFP for that, and hopefully, again, enhancing the technology that's available with whatever vendor we select for that. Some point in time, we might have to look at taking that in-house, but as long as we have vendors that are able to do it, that's how we're currently going to proceed. And then the city, their buildings, as you know, that's on the CIP. I think we're maybe third on the list, but that's something we want to start preparing for, being able to apply for federal grants. If we could get transit facilities and Equipment such as buses can be funded 80% federally. So if we have a successful grant application, that's something we want to start preparing for to help with the city facilities. And I know that, we've used some of the transit fund balance annually to reduce the city levy, but I'm hopeful someday that maybe that can be used for a facility project. So I think that'd be a good use for some of that. So that's all I have. Any questions on transportation?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now are there any questions for any of the departments? Otherwise, we'll move on to some numbers, bigger picture. I don't know, Julie, if you want to go through some of this.
Just in the effort of time, I was going to be very quick on these. I mean, these are the typical general fund revenue sources. Obviously, over 20% is, or more than that, but the majority of our budget is taxes for revenues. Expenditures, we already talked about how the majority of the expenditures are public safety. When you're talking general fund, this is the summary by all the different funds. It groups all the special revenue funds together. Oh, yeah, keep going, sorry.
We need to stop here for a second because I didn't move quickly enough.
Oh.
So.
This was what I was saying. Public safety obviously is the majority of the expenditures for the general fund, which is police and fire. On the next slide, yeah, you have the enterprise funds. That would be their water, sewer, storm, inspections, transit. So this kind of breaks it all out. The next slide shows all the fund balances, which you'll see the ones that are ending in the zero fund balance are the ones that we are moving into the general fund. So like senior center, museum, cemetery, Leach Amphitheater, Pollock Aquatic Water Center, street lighting, those are all going to end in a zero fund balance because we have the transfer budgeted to move whatever fund balance is actually remaining as of year end into the general fund.
Can you remind me on these? Is there some of these that aren't actual like cash fund, that it's more because they're a like an enterprise fund and they're holding asset value compared to cash?
The enterprise ones, so water, sewer, storm,
Yeah.
some of those will have the asset values in them, yes. And the next one is the tax levy. Again, this shows the zeros, which ones used to have tax levy going to them and now do not. Big change here, I guess, would be that the general fund tax levy is increasing, but we're also moving a lot of those expenses into the general fund. Slight decrease in some of the other special revenue funds. Part of the messaging has been if we're dipping into the general fund balance, we may also need to dip into some of the special revenue fund balances. So some of the tax levy budgets are slightly down, assuming that we are dipping into slightly those special revenue fund balances. So that was another
Any
piece of the
questions
puzzle.
on any of these? The revenues? Motion? Expenditures? Do you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the general fund balance? I know that's a big question for people, and what is the right amount?
I have a spreadsheet that I just updated before this meeting that I'll probably send to council. This is, we talked about it at length last year on how, when we were talking about using fund balance to balance the budget, the discussion that we had last year during budget was our fund balance was over our fund balance policy within the general fund. So you have the fund balance policy so you don't build up too much of a fund balance because you want the safety net, but at the same point you don't want overtaxed residents to have too big of a safety net. So we had the conversation that last year it looked artificially inflated, that percentage, because we moved ambulance out of the general fund. but we kept all of that fund balance. So you moved a few, because you always compare the fund balance to the next year's expenditures. So a bunch of the expenditures left, but the fund balance stayed. So we had the conversation that it was artificially inflated, that percentage last year. And then we also had the conversation that if you want to truly look at the general fund balance, you should also be comparing it with all the special revenue funds that are tax levy supported. That was part of what got me to thinking that we should move some of those into the general fund. So that you have a truer picture of, at the end of the day, which funds potentially may need to be bailed out by the general fund. So when you're thinking about how big of a safety net you need, you can see that bigger picture. So I did update that today as well, so I can send that to council. But right now we're at about 27%. Our general fund balance is about 27% of 2026 budgeted expenditures as it's proposed right now.
Which is in line with policy.
Which is in line with policy.
Thank you. Any questions on the levy? So, again, we're trying to maintain a flat levy.
This is just another summary. We can talk more in depth if anyone has questions, but it can just kind of list the revenues on the top and the expenditures on the bottom. Again, it shows almost 40 million of the 63 million general fund expenditures are personnel.
Any questions?
Or over 40 million. Yeah. Next is the tax levy impact analysis. A lot of numbers, and I want to say these are estimates because of the fact that board of review is still happening. We do not have the final assessment numbers. So these are best estimates as of today. But we had the revaluation in 2025 and in 2024 based off of the current projections. With the revaluation, the assessed values go up, so even with the tax levy staying the same, the tax rate decreases. So, highlighted in yellow is last year the tax rate was $8.14 per thousand value, and right now it is being projected to be $7.73. And the next slide shows that for an average house of about $225,000 would have a $91 decrease in their tax bill from the city portion. So again, these are all projections, nothing's final. But that's based off of the current proposal. Options for consideration, we always provide these. Again, right now we are proposing the 0% increase at the 47 million tax levy. If you wanted to change that at all and use less fund balance to balance the budget, that just shows what it would change to. So, for example, the max allowable increase, the net new construction amount, if you increase the tax levy to 47.483, that would still cause the average homeowner to see a $73.26 decrease in the tax bill. So, food for thought, something that we always provide.
Question on that. Does that max allowable increase, I like the 0% this year, definitely, but like, it's 1.03 is our max allowable increase. Say it was another 1.03 next year. If something happened, would we then have 2.06 to work with, or just that it doesn't roll over?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't roll over.
So we're spending fund balance, but we won't be able to make up that possible increase ever again.
The caveat is on the levy limit worksheet, you have that debt adjustment. So that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier, was we would still take that 1.03% net new construction increase. We would just adjust our debt adjustment down. So on the levy limit worksheet, you never use what you're allowed to use on the debt adjustment. You only use what you need to use.
Sure.
So you would never give up the net new construction amount.
You always take the full net new construction.
Good. That's
Yes.
No matter how you use it.
Yes.
So that's the general fund, and we can get into a little of the capital, if you would want to maybe go through the departments that are not Public Works. I have those first, and we should be able to get through the majority of them, then people won't have to come back again. Here's the summary, the funding summary. To start with, I believe in June, it was over 100,000,
Yeah, it was over 100,000.
so now it's down to 72,000. Million.
Welcome back.
Yes, I'm the finance person. Just kidding. Yes. All right, so the first are the facilities, and this just going to give some highlights, and then we'll go through the requests. We're going to focus primarily on 2026.
Right, we've listed the priority of some of the buildings that we had previously planned, but just a disclaimer, I referenced some of the reorganization that's going to take place. So some of the things that we have listed there, like for example, City Hall is paused, although this building was built in 1915 and clearly we need another one. It doesn't make a lot of sense to go too far and too fast until we can accomplish the reorganization that we're working on and try to figure out what the proper adjacencies are for different departments, and who's going to be where, and how many people are going to be in those areas. So when I was asking for the patience of the council and also the citizenry as we go through this process, it'll be the changes, it'll be how those employees can do their jobs. It'll also be where they're going to be located, and that'll have a cascading effect of buildings and some of the other administrative areas that we're responsible for. So just something to keep in mind when we're thinking about facilities, that there are going to be some things that aren't on that list that are going to have to be addressed as well. But in regard to these projects, I think you all know that the public safety training facility is something that's been waiting for quite some time. And I don't know if you briefly want to touch on that, Mike or John. I know we've been working with the chiefs to take a look at what might be possible. You want to speak to that?
Sure. So right now we're just, we got our RFP out. I think we had a successful advertisement of it. We had, I believe, was there 5 or 8? So 8 consultants came back. We got those into Chief Smith and Chief Hyman's hands. They reviewed it, and now our next step is to get with those guys and kind of go through the process of reviewing it. So that's kind of where we are now. So at the end of the month, we'll get together with them, and we'll work with purchasing and general services, and we'll take the next steps and figure out who the consultant would be.
And just backing up a little bit, so I don't know how many of the council were on the council when we did this, the facility condition assessment report. We did this update with CUNY. This was this last summer. So their recommendations are, for the most part, reflected in the 10-year CIP coming up. So that's what you're kind of seeing in the short list, many of those projects that were prioritized. So, but yeah, as John was saying, the joint public training facility, it was their #1 recommendation, and thus that's one of the big projects in the CIP coming up this coming year.
I don't need an answer on this. I know we're moving kind of fast tonight and a lot to talk about. We're just in the RFP stage of getting a consultant to even meet with our folks to figure out what we need, and we've put a placeholder dollar amount. I have a concern because I understand how consultants work, and once they know the budget, the plan is going to fit the budget. I haven't said what I'm comfortable with. Other council members haven't either, but this went from a few million to 4 million to 7 million, and now I'm seeing 14 million. Not very fun. I'm not a fan of that, so I don't need an answer, but I don't like that there's even a placeholder number in here yet. considering we don't know what the combined needs would be. I don't know what the potential square footage of the site would be, or the facility, or what it could all encompass, all those things. So to even spitball a number seems interesting to me. And I, like I said, I know we got a lot to go over. It can be a memo. It doesn't have to be addressed tonight, but that's a concern for me for even putting a number in for 26, considering we don't know what we don't know yet. I know we had some ideas on the fire side. We didn't have any ideas on the police side. So just some thoughts.
Well, it may be premature, as you're alluding to, but we had to start somewhere, and I know we started with the fire. We used SEH's consultant when we began that process, I think 2 years ago. And then when we came down to this joint idea, the idea of merging them, we went back to them and said, hey, we have to get something going. So what do you think? So that's where the 14.
So just back to some of the other bullets that were listed on the facilities page. As I mentioned, I don't think it makes any sense to talk about City Hall, the transportation facility, water distribution, because of the potential reorganizational impacts. We still need to go forward with some of the things that we're doing on with the fire stations, the convention center, Public Museum and Senior Center North. Depending upon what comes up, we may be able to consider those. And also, I think council's aware of what we're working on with the Grand Opera House. And for people that might not be aware, in the community, there's an effort to try to expand the Grand Opera House. The Grand Opera House Foundation is working on also raising money. The city entered into a memorandum of understanding to try to support $5 million towards that. It sounds like that's moving forward from the Grand Opera House's perspective very well. So we're hopeful that that's something that we can continue to address. It's a very exciting project that I know John and Mike have been working on, and other departments in the city. I don't know if you want to say anything additional about that, Mike or John?
As John said, we're in design development right now. We're having monthly meetings, kind of going through, and we have a lot of people working on it. There's a lot of departments. We're putting a lot of time in it, and there's a lot of support, a lot of city support behind it. I think it's going well. It's a positive move. John, anything?
No, there's just a lot of moving parts, and as you said, we have a lot of departments working behind the scenes to make it happen. So I think it's just we got to sort through a lot of the details as we go forward. But yeah, we're all there.
So that's kind of the abbreviated version, unless you have any other additional questions about facilities. Okay, thank you.
You went over some of this before.
I was going to say,
but
we kind of discussed this previously, and this was a coordinated effort between finance, the city manager, and myself. We had a lot of projects previously that were broken out into very small CIP projects that we kind of combined into larger buckets. It's just easier as we manage projects, knowing that sometimes we're having to dip into multiple buckets to complete projects. And they're mainly all for development anyways. So in our minds, it just made more sense to consolidate them into two really major ones concerning the downtown redevelopment plan that we've been working towards, and then also our housing initiatives that we've been working on as well. Okay, sure. Council, from what I understand, was tentatively aware that the city had applied for a Safe Streets for All grant. We did receive it. It is a 80% match, which means that we would expend all of the funds but 80% of it would get reimbursed to us from the federal government. We are in the process of working through the grant agreement with the DOT right now. They have sent some comments back to us, so it's not finalized at this time. If I remember correctly, we did not fund anything for it for 2026. Per the grant agreement that we have with the DOT that we've tentatively etched out, there are deadlines in that grant agreement, meaning we would need to expend some funds immediately once the agreement is signed. And I guess the question is, do we want to do this project or do we not? If we don't want to do this project, then the CIP should basically stay as is, because if it's not funded, then for 2026, we won't be able to move forward with it. I don't have that amount of money available. I could beg you later, but it makes more sense to plan ahead. I think that's what we all prefer to do anyways. If we do want to move forward with the project, we will most likely have to put something in the 2026 CIP, because otherwise it's not going to move forward.
So the excerpt right here is from the 2025 CIP, where it looks like because at that point we thought we already had the grant. We put it as 80% federal funding, I think 20% levy. Or fund balance, actually I think it was fund balance. And the 2026 draft CIP, we had pushed it out not knowing the status because we hadn't heard back yet. So we had pushed it out, and I think it's listed as federal funding and GO debt for 2026. No, actually, we pushed it out to 2027. So I think that's where we're kind of looking for a little bit of feedback, because in the 2025, it was in the CIP. Since then, we didn't know for sure what was going to happen. We actually pushed it out in the 2026 CIP, and then we heard back.
We did. We've heard back. We have a grant agreement that I'd say is pretty close. The comments that they sent back are fairly minor. So if we want to move forward with it, now would be the time to decide.
So, unless I've missed it, which is possible, I don't know that I've seen a full plan. I've seen like the outlines and the description of kind of what it would be, but I don't know enough to tell you that I want that.
I might tag another staff for this, because this was initiated before I came to Oshkosh, but I can tell you what I know. And the idea is that we would use the funding to create a pedestrian bridge over 41. The place that was deemed to be the easiest was over by U-Haul, connecting to a property kind of on the northern portion of 41. One of the sides would have to be ADA accessible, so it would be a very, very long ramp that goes up and over and then down, 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 down. The other side is more of a curved staircase sort of setup that would just go straight down more. Does that help a little?
We could have something on the next council meeting for discussion and guidance, if that would be helpful.
And if I'm a visual person, so if I could have
absolutely
even a ChatGPT mock-up of what this would look like.
I think we have some engineering stuff preliminary that was done when we submitted the grant. We had to have some information presented before, so absolutely, I'd be happy to bring this back, and then we can kind of have a full departmental coordination of all the different ones that are in it. And I know that the transportation committee has also been tagged in a little bit, so we can get you a more comprehensive background as to what's been done and what would be needed to move forward.
Speaking of additional background on this particular one, it's my understanding that cost is just to physically construct the bridge itself.
The 10 million?
Yeah.
Nope, that includes the environmental cost, engineering, and the construction itself.
Okay. One thing I didn't hear was land acquisition.
I am going to defer.
My understanding, I didn't think that cost included the land to do the other parts that we wanted to do. And I don't, again.
That is an excellent question.
Can all be part of the memo and discussion of just the feedback or the background information for next time.
I would be happy to help put that together.
I don't remember exactly, but I believe you're probably correct, Mayor, that there would be some likely additional costs associated with that. I know when we had the conversations, this would be, we believe, an eligible project out of TIF 35.
Sure.
Is the Oshkosh Ave TIF, so there would be
on the east side.
I believe the connection. I think there would we'd have to take a closer look at it, but I do believe that this fits within the parameters of that TIF district.
we'll be sure to bring that information to you at the next council meeting. Thank you much.
And then I'll give you an opinion on it.
All right, sounds good.
If we can just do fire, parks, and then Jim already did transit, so we can just, fire's pretty minimal. Well, it's a large amount, but it's minimum number of items.
For fire, obviously, apparatus is one of our larger costs. Chief Stelter runs our fleet management, so I'm gonna let him talk on the replacement cycle for our apparatus.
Sure, various CFP apparatus costs for fire apparatus replacement. Right now, we replace one a year on average, so one fire engine or one ladder truck. Even with that, which is, I think, right now a pretty good program, it still kind of keeps us a little bit behind the curve on vehicle replacement. Manufacturers' recommendations are 10 years frontline and then 15 years reserve service for an apparatus, and we're seeing way past 15 frontline and up to 25 for reserve. And by that point, they're getting really expensive to maintain and they're becoming unreliable. And when we're done with them, they have zero value. Typically, they go right to the scrap yard because it's not even worth anybody putting money into them, or we donate them for additional service because they're just totally used up. So if we continue with this program, we're going to move up a little bit better. So right now, our newest reserve unit is a 2016, which isn't too bad. And I suggest we just keep doing what we're doing and continue to see improvements from that. We also have some of our staff vehicles have been in poor condition for some time, so that is our other CIP fleet item is to, we're doing 1 year of that. We asked to replace 2 at once and then kind of skip a year just so we don't have to maintain. The ones right now, Central Garage has assessed at being not worth repairing when they fail because they're old, worn out, low quality vehicles that just aren't worth doing the repairs that they need right now on them. So we're trying to replace 2 of them for next year.
For the engines, are in the current budget, the way we have it, are those vehicles that will show up in 26, 7, 8, 9, and 30, or are these vehicles that we need to budget for now but won't show up for in 4 years? So
Well, it's both. So right now we have actually the 2025 vehicle has been delayed in production. We went through all steps, having set up. It was supposed to arrive in 2025. They delayed to 2026. So that's why that's a higher number for 2026. Moving forward, we actually have put orders in for the trucks. In the fire apparatus right now is a very extended build time. So you're looking at least 2, more like 3 years to have one built. So we are putting those orders in, and we currently are continuing to develop specs and then place orders for trucks 2 to 3 years ahead so that we can have them arrive on time when our old ones are failing.
Some very interesting articles out there right now on the fire apparatus world and the length of time it's taking to get the equipment and the cost increases for anybody who's listening at home and wants to read. So, because you're right, it went from 9 months-ish, 9, 12 months when I started 7 years ago. I mean, under a year was reasonable and common, and now it's 36 to 48 is extremely common, if not longer probably at this point.
Yeah, pretty common wait times that we're seeing.
And the price is dramatically higher. We went from $500,000 or $600,000 for a pumper to almost $1 million.
Yeah, in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Other items we have longer range are gear, which we follow NFPA recommendations as far as lifespan for replacement, and then a little further out SCBA's as well that we again follow the NFPA recommendations for replacement.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pretty minimal on this.
Yes. There's just a few pieces of equipment. A number of requests have been pared down with city manager and the finance director. If there's any questions on either utility cart or the chipper, those are the only 2 pieces of equipment for next year. And if not, I will jump into the park projects. Just going to go by, looks like in order of pages, but Menominee Park Zoo, improvements, what we have typically done is requested $100,000 every other year. What this helps us do is shows our commitment from the city, which helps us leverage going forward for major fundraisers that we can say the city's taking care of the necessities like fencing, path work for ADA reasons. We have some mammal exhibit designs and construction that we are looking to do. So you can see that every other year. Next one, I talked about the pool heaters. You can see that for the next 3 years. Park trail improvements, we began requesting $50,000 a year. This really helps us address a number of ADA issues that were identified in our assessment. As you can imagine, with all the parks, we probably had the majority of the issues that we need to address. I mentioned the Corey Park development. We're requesting $50,000 to help start that project next year. And then the Reeds North Ball Field light replacement. We started to break down the major improvements that we had in the CIP for quite a few years, which was about $4 to $5 million. Not getting that fully funded, we understand, so we started to break out the pieces that we really need. We have pretty much piecemealed the lights together as best we could, so we are hoping to replace the Reeds Field North lights. Nothing else?
Thank you. We already did the transit, parking, and traffic, so the rest is public works and utilities. I don't know if we want to reconvene tomorrow. We're hoping to get the capital improvement program approved on the 28th, just for the simple fact of there's some grants that need to be done by the end of the month. So I don't know if we do something before that meeting or what the preference would be.
Maybe why don't we chat about that under future council meetings
Okay.
at the later part
Okay.
of our council agenda, allow us to
Okay, think about
process
yeah.
for a few minutes?
Yes.
Before
Yeah.
we give direction on that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have
Thank
for
you.
now.
You are
We'll,
so lucky.
Appreciate it very much.